What's going on, 7th grade? Mr. Agnos here. Today we're going to be talking about ratios, fractions, decimals, and percents, and how they all relate to one another. And I kind of alluded to this in previous classes that when you're talking about a ratio, a fraction, a decimal, and a percent, they really all say the same thing, right? I could say 1/2, 50%, 0.5, and they're all telling you the same thing. They're just saying it in a slightly different way. So let's take a look at some problems and what they want us to do. So the first thing, this is question number 1 from the homework. It says, write the ratio as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. All right, so when you see it written like this, they have 22 to 40, right? When it's written in this format, it is called a ratio, 22 to 40. And they want us to take this ratio, they want us to write it as a fraction, they want us to write it as a decimal, and they want us to write it as a percent. And there's actually a really logical reason to this order here. Once I have it written as a fraction, remember a fraction is a division problem, and I can turn the fraction into a decimal. And once I have the decimal, I just multiply it by 100, and I'll have the percent. All right, so turning this into a fraction is actually really easy. 22 to 40 just means 22 over 40. So this is how we write the ratio as a fraction. Put the first number on top, the numerator. You put the second number on the bottom as the denominator. Now remember, with any fraction, they're going to want you to simplify it. See how it says simplify right here? 22 and 40 are both even, so they have a common factor of 2. So I can divide the top and the bottom by 2, and I get 11 over 20. All right, so that's the first part of my answer. The ratio as a fraction is 11 over 20. Okay, now that I know that it's 11 over 20, well, I can just do this division to convert it into a decimal. So remember, 11 over 20 actually means 11 divided by 20, right? And you could go ahead and put your zeros here and do long division by hand if you like. I'm just going to go ahead and use a calculator for this. But a fraction, it always means the top divided by the bottom. So 11 divided by 20. And when I do 11 divided by 20, I get 0.55. So there's my decimal form. So I can cross that one off. All right, if I want to turn a decimal into a percent, I just multiply that decimal by 100. So I have 0.55, and we're going to multiply it by 100. So this would sort of be the longer way of doing it, doing the old standard algorithm. Anytime you multiply a number by 100, what you're really doing is just moving the decimal point. So if I were to multiply 0.55 by 10, for example, the decimal point is going to move 1 unit to the right, and I would get 5.5. Well, since I'm multiplying by 100, I have to move the decimal point one more time. And so my decimal just moves from here to here, and I end up with 55. And we're talking percent, so 55%. All right, so 22 to 40, 11 20ths, 0.55 and 55% are all the same thing. They're just, it's like saying the word car, but in saying it in English, French, German, and Spanish, right? They're all just saying it in a slightly different language. To go from the ratio to the fraction, just put the first number as your numerator and the second number as your denominator. Once you have the fraction, just divide the top by the bottom to convert to a decimal. And once you have the decimal, just multiply by 100 to turn it into a percent. All right, let's look at a problem where we actually have to use this. A research article, this is number 3, a research article claims that 72% of people have at least one pet. Suppose the claim is true for a school with 450 students. So what they're saying is that 72% of students at this 450 student school have pets, right? And just for some reference here, Pine Hollow has about 560, 570 students, so the school's a little smaller than ours. What would the ratio of the actual number of students who have a pet to the actual number of students. Okay, so we need to figure out how many students at the school have a pet. In other words, what is 72% of 450? I'm going to put that number at the front of my ratio, right? Because they want a ratio of the actual number of students who have a pet to the total number of students. So I need some number, right? The number of students that have a pet compared to the total number of students. So in order to do this, we just need to figure out, well, what's 72% of 450? So remember the percent equation, all right? The part is equal to the percent times the whole. So in this situation, we know what the percent is, 72. We know what the whole is, 450. So we multiply those two together, it'll give us the part. So the part is going to equal. All right, when you use the percent equation, you have to convert this percent to a decimal. You can't leave it in percentage form. So 72% as a decimal is 0.72. Multiply that by my whole number, which is 450. And then when I multiply these two together, we get that the part, remember our part in this situation is the number of students that have pets, is 450 times 0.72. 324. So 324 students have a pet. I bet it's higher than that. 324 students have a pet, so we go ahead and put that 324 right here. So now I go and I look at my choices. There it is. Okay, I'm only going to do 2 problems. I've shown you just enough to kind of get you started, get you thinking. I don't think I've shown you enough here where you're going to be able to do everything. And again, that's the goal. The goal is to get you asking questions in class. All right. So this is just a preliminary here. Here's how you get started. There's my pet right there. I'm one of the 72%. The goal is I'm showing you just enough to get you started, and then I need you asking questions in class. We're working on this together. Okay. So hopefully this video helps get you started, and then make sure you ask lots of questions in class, and I'll go over some examples to get you guys going. So because this is really important stuff. This is stuff that you see all the time. Again, I keep bringing up the election that we just saw. There are percents and fractions all over the place, right? And you guys need to know how to speak that language so you can understand the information that's being presented to you. All right, guys, I'll see you in class.